Welcome back to Series Regular, the Hollywood Reporter's all-in podcast on genre television, except when it occasionally moonlights as a podcast about Survivor. Hello, everybody. I am Josh Wigler, your host here on Series Regular, and we are back in the moonlight because I am once again taking you back to the Mamanuca Islands of Fiji, the shooting location for CBS's Survivor, where I was a fly on the wall for the first week of production on Island of the Idols, the 39th season of the reality franchise that premiered its first episode on September 25th. Now, as I told you before, there was no First One Out podcast series this season. But did I ever say there wouldn't be a First One Out interview?
I don't know about that.
What follows is a closer look at the first one out of Survivor Island of the Idols. Major spoilers from the season 39 premiere are ahead, and they're coming your way after the following legendary moment from Survivor's very first tribal council.
The tribe has spoken.
Go get him, you guys.
Thanks, Sonia.
Okay, before we go from the first one out in Survivor history to the latest first one out in Survivor history, how about some music? What you're about to hear is something that you've already heard before, if you listen to my Island of the Idols preview podcast here on Series Regular. It's the 10 members of the Lyro tribe, sitting in their shelter to take cover from the sweltering Fijian heat, entertaining each other with a Survivor rap battle. It'll be hard not to notice superfan Chelsea Walker's freestyle flow, but do your best to concentrate on the sweet beat running underneath.
Get her. All right. Yeah.
Okay. Yo, we're sitting under a tree, and I hope you really like me, cause our name is Tribe Laro, and Aaron is our Cairo, and I am like, how are we doing this? How are we doing this? How? Yeah.
It's time for a closer look at the man behind the beatbox, Ronnie Barda, the fourth professional poker player to step into the Survivor ring, and the first one out of Survivor Island of the Idols. Before the season began, I sat down with all 20 of the new players for some wide-ranging conversations about their backstories and their plans for the season ahead. Ronnie was the first person to come across my proverbial desk. He was understandably a much more hopeful person on that long-ago day in the jungle, even though he was already fairly used to losing major events in early and epic fashion.
Yeah, I think poker players, I mean, I'm the fourth one who's been on the show.
Yeah. You've played with Jean Robert, right?
Yeah.
You played poker with him.
Yeah, have you seen the Shark
Yeah,
Tank clip?
I watched a little bit of that before he came out here, because I was like, all right, poker player, Jean Robert has played before. These guys have to have connected before.
And then you've seen the video of us playing.
A little tiny bit. What happened? Spoil it for me.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just a clip. That's actually one of the most viewed poker hands of all time, where I was actually bluffed out of the pot by a supermodel. It was the first hand that was dealt on that specific show called The Shark Cage, which was filmed in Barcelona, and they had 2 seasons.
Okay.
And then they actually brought me back because that hand was so crazy and controversial for the second season in Monaco. Well, there was they shot in different places, but my episode is actually aired in Monaco. But John Robert's there. It's 6 of us at the table. It's $1 million take all, but you have to win your first table and you move to the next one. But I was bluffed out of this, bluffed out from this girl. She made a really sick play. She had no idea what she was actually doing.
Yeah.
But all the stars aligned. And,
Yeah, sure.
Like it could happen in Survivor.
That's Survivor for you, man. You just spelled out Survivor.
You can play. You can do everything perfectly. You can say the right things. You can do the right things. If somebody has an advantage and an idol nullifier, and this one says the right thing to this person, you think you have all your things lined up correctly. But guess what? Just like that, you're out of there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You gotta really smell it when it gets down to it, and you just gotta claw and scrape and try everything you can do in this game.
Ronnie entered season 39 planning to lie about his profession as a poker player. You heard that for yourself in the premiere. He may have done all the jobs he listed out at Tribal Council, but he omitted a big piece of his story, too. Having to tell such a sizable lie about your fundamental self does not typically work out so well for prospective Survivor players, with a few notable exceptions, of course. But even without revealing his career to his fellow survivors, Ronnie's odds heading into the season were not exactly in his favor. At least that's the case according to some of the people who wound up on his tribe, who I spoke with for their first impressions of all of their future opponents. Here's Elaine, the person who would have originally gone home if Ronnie had it his way.
Oh, I'd cut his ass. Yeah, I'd send him home. He reminds me of my brother. I'd send him home. He does. All my brothers are older than me, but my youngest brother, he reminds me of him for some reason. And my youngest brother, like, he could be shady. And if I could associate that with him, I'd have to get rid of him because, you know, I can't be having my bigger bro get ahead of me or whatever. So I'd have to cut him first chance I got, you know?
Here's Dean, who you didn't hear much from in the premiere, calling his shot on Ronnie.
He kind of thinks he's a big shot. I feel like he could be annoying to some people. I feel like he's a good guy to get the heat off me.
Oddly enough, even the one person who wound up voting with Ronnie in the end, Aaron, he wasn't so keen on working with Ronnie heading into the game either.
I'm just not getting good vibes from him, and it sucks because I'm trying not to pass like judgment like that, but he just doesn't carry himself like somebody who I would want to work with.
Would things have worked out differently for Ronnie with a different group of players on his beach? Maybe. At the very least, there were more people on the rival Vokai tribe who seemed primed and ready to work with him, such as Lauren, Nora, and Molly.
It's funny with him. At first, I was like, I'm not working with him because he's got this like thick like Jersey accent and like he's very like kind of rough around the edges and super like he scares me. But I think that's the kind of person I want to align myself with.
Interesting. Someone who scares you a little bit?
Someone who scares me because you need to bring your enemies closer. And I think with him, he seems like a talker that could just, you know, kind of weasel his way out of any situation. And that I want to align myself with you because I want to make you feel good, so you don't come for me. And I think that he could be a buffer for me potentially as well.
I don't know why I like him. I like him a lot. Okay, I've dated a lot of guys that look like the guys I've dated that I liked the most. I mean, I've dated a lot of guys. They look very Middle Eastern, you know, olive skin, dark hair. They've got some swag. They've got some mystery. They know how to dress nicely. Their manners, like I can see what his manners are like, and like how he is around women. I like that, and he gives me those eyes. Like, I actually don't feel like that with a lot of people. And he gives me those eyes where I'm like, you're looking into my soul. Stop looking in there. So I like him. He has a warmth to him. And I feel like he's everywhere. Whenever I'm somewhere, I'm like, you're right there. Your tent's next to mine. Yeah. Like, you're everywhere.
He's actually right here. Just kidding.
Like,
He's not. He can't hear anything.
He is so cute. And I think there's going to be something there.
Okay.
Stay tuned, people.
Okay, cool.
He seems great. I think that he is a firecracker.
Okay.
I think he's been like ready. He's also a whistler, but
he's a whistler.
He is a whistler. But okay. I would like to work with him.
Speaking of whistling, here's Jamal from Vokai, who also picked up on Ronnie's musical tendencies and had a really fun idea for what to do with him.
That guy. So he sings well. And I know that because he like hums in the line, and he hums really like on key. I'm a singer too, so I can recognize that. So I'm thinking I want to connect with him on like a musical level and see if we can get like a code going back and forth through music.
Like a music code?
Wouldn't that be fun?
Wait, how would that work?
Wouldn't that be so cool? So
the Wandoff architect in me is twitching right now. This is incredible news.
No, this would be amazing. I was thinking like, all right, so if something has to switch up at tribal or something, I might like sing my answer back to Jeff in A minor, right? And he would know that if I go minor with it, I mean this person, but if I go major with it, then it's actually that other person.
Wow.
I'm thinking we can do some fun things.
Wait, can you give me a difference between A minor and A major right now, just so I could try and tell?
No.
Why? You'd be so good for the podcast.
No.
Oh, man.
No.
Tragically, Ronnie and Jamal's duet alliance will never come to pass, obviously. But that's how the cookie crumbles on Survivor. Sometimes, as in poker, the cards are just not in your favor, as Ronnie knew all too well heading into the game.
You can't win a fucking tournament in one day. You can't win Survivor in one vote.
You can lose it.
You can lose it. Just like in poker. You can't win in one hand, but you can lose it, man.
Yeah.
It's a famous saying in poker. Like you can bust out a one hand, you can't win a tournament in one hand.
So there's 20 of you guys out here.
20.
One of you wins. Hopefully it's you.
I hope so, Wigler.
Somebody goes home first, dude. Somebody goes through all the shit that you've gone through to go home first.
Yeah, and it's you, and like I feel like you know all the shit we go through because we do. Yeah.
Well, I've been doing this for a few years, so I've sat across from many of you guys at this point. You know, you're number one today, but you're 60 or 70 at this point. So I know what you go through to come out here. It's a lot.
It's a lot, man.
How much would it break you if you were the first one out?
It'd break my heart, bro. My whole life, the things that happened to me in my life, there's things that I've endured, things that I've overcome. The life that I lived, they can fucking make a movie out of it, to be honest with you. I swear to God. The things that I've seen, everything that I've done, the health issues I've had, that I've overcome, like the scares that I've had, the shit that I've done to prepare for this show, the family I grew up in. You know, I don't know if there's mentally a more well-prepared player than myself. I don't know physically, you know. I'm not sure. I hope. We'll see. But I'll never fucking give up. That's something that'll never happen. I never give up in life, dude. And if I'm the first one out, I'll probably cry. Like, literally, when they're like, they have the accident, like the thing when they show you after the votes are read and they show you, like, it's been a great experience for me. I'm going to be like, fuck no! And they're like, there's going to be like, I'm going to blow up. And I probably won't blow up, but I'll cry, say something heartfelt. Yeah. And I'll be at Ponderosa in tears.
All right, man.
Thanks a lot,
Good stuff, dude. Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Don't forget me.
Speaking with me at Tribal Council moments after snuffing Ronnie's torch, Jeff Probst weighed in on the first elimination of the season and even meditated on why it makes him want to bring back one of Survivor's most recent and controversial format twists.
I feel for Ronnie because, you get to know these people through the casting process, and he's such a deep thinker, an emotional guy, a nice guy, and I don't know what he did at camp that got his game thrown off, but I'm guessing it had something to do with a first impression, or people thought he was sketchy or he's too smart. Maybe they picked up on the poker thing, even though he doesn't sound like he was telling people. I don't know. I felt bad. This is a weird season. Everybody is so likable. Yeah. I think it's going to be some really tough tribals. And I'm also really curious how this is going to feel on the heels of Extinction. Because I know there are purists who think you should never have a second chance island. But right now, I'd kind of like to see Ronnie on an island living alone.
Yeah, what has he got going on?
What has he got going on over there in an alternate universe when we have Extinction happening? So I'm still on the fence about whether we bring Extinction back or not. I definitely am open to it.
No need to visit the edge of Extinction or an alternate reality to find out what happened next to Ronnie. All you need to do is keep listening to this podcast. What follows is my conversation with Ronnie Barta back in mid-March of 2019, the morning after he was voted out of Survivor. The two of us sat across from each other at Ponderosa, the place where the players dwell after their eliminations. Ronnie sleeplessly forked an egg white omelet around on his plate, occasionally sipping on a hot tea. This card-carrying Survivor fan turned player, who was so confident and so self-assured in the days leading up to the game, was speaking with me about his short time on the island with much less bravado than the last time that we had met. Neither he nor I had the benefit of watching the full events of the Survivor season premiere at that time, of course. So his account of those 3 days, and my understanding of his account, lacks the bigger picture context of what went down. What you're going to hear, then, is the raw emotion of a man processing what happened, getting some details wrong in the process, but getting others surprisingly right. If nothing else, he was dead on about the cold, hard, undeniable fact. After only 3 days on the beach, Ronnie's shot at winning $1 million, much like One World, was out the window. And here, staring out a window at Ponderosa as rain poured down outside, Ronnie was left looking at more than a month away from the rest of the world, with little else to do other than think about where things went wrong and where things might go for him now from here on out.
How you feeling, dude? Talk to me.
Still like taking everything in, pretty, it sucks. Disappointed, feeling a bit embarrassed for myself and for, some of the friends back home, you know what I mean? But I made hella mistakes. Survivor is something that when you watch at home, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. For myself, I was extremely, extremely tired out there. If people are listening, obviously they're not listening now because you're recording.
Yeah.
If you ever come on Survivor, make sure you're in perfect health, because, or at least figure it out that you go out there and you have everything controlled. If you have any issues, they just gonna exaggerate, and you're gonna feel it more, and it's gonna really mess with you mentally, and you have to be in the right mindset to play the game, and you can't make mistakes. I made plenty, and as soon as I made them, literally after I would say something to one person, or I would be in like a four-way conversation and say something, like as soon as I said it, I'm very self-aware, and I'm like, fuck, why did I say that? That was bad. Mistake after mistake after mistake, especially after our first immunity challenge loss. Honestly, I don't think that I was ever a target until the few mistakes, and I remember some of the mistakes I made. As soon as we got back, we were in a conversation with it was me, Aaron, Vince, Missy, and Karishma.
Yeah.
So it was all the minorities, basically. I mean, you want to put, a Sephardic Jew in there as a minority.
Right, yeah.
I mean, so we had that whole, and Missy was preaching the whole minority thing. We should stay strong, and we should we can grab Tom in, and we'll keep this tribe strong. Who we're looking at, and nobody wanted to talk. Nobody ever wants to throw a name out there. So we're just all talking, and nobody wants to come out and speak about, everybody's like, how do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? I mean, everybody's just playing the game. I mean,
no one wants to say anything.
Nobody wants to say anything. I mean, the whole tribe is playing well. I mean, literally, there's nobody out there like, she sucks. Like old Survivors you watch, it's just like, there's no one.
It's a good crew.
There's no one on the tribe literally blurting out names. Like, there's nobody out there, just. And I knew that coming in, that's the game I wanted. I wanted to play. I wanted to play kind of an under the radar game in the beginning, but I just didn't. So yeah, we're in a circle of of 5 of us, and I just said, yeah, I'd like to keep the tribe strong also, and I just mentioned that Chelsea seemed really flustered at the challenge when she lost the puzzle. I mean, when she was, up there when she was doing it, like I could see she kind of gave up mentally. And I said, that's something that, for me, I want to play with players that never give up mentally, that they would, physically give up beforehand. And like you could see in her, she's pretty fit, and she just like halfway through, and they just got to like that, like when the other tribe got to their 3rd tower, she was just like,
it's over.
She was like, and everybody's like, we're still in, and you can catch up, and she just, just kind of, and then Vince also, he was out of it too, and he was like kind of the corner, and he's an emotional guy, so, but he's in the group, so nobody's obviously talking about him, and we come up with Elaine, as a group, and I think it was Aaron who kind of brought that up, but the way he brought it up was extremely smooth. Of course, he's playing a flawless game right now.
You think so?
Yeah, he's playing really, really well. By the way they love him, and the way he speaks, and the way he, the way he like talks is like Survivor, like perfect. So as soon as that happens, Vince goes off, and like we have a plan for Elaine, but he goes off and he's paranoid. He starts to cry first of all there with us about the puzzle.
Yeah.
He breaks down in tears, and then he runs off and tells Chelsea about what that I said that. And I forget who comes back and tells me that he said that to her, or that at least he tells somebody. I think it was Karishma who came to tell me. I think Karishma's the one who didn't vote for me in last night tribal. I know I'm all over the place.
No, it's good. It's fine.
Yeah, I got 2 votes for Vince, obviously me, and I think it was, I'm guessing it was Karishma.
And so you voted for Vince because he leaked that out?
No, this will come later.
Yeah.
So then we had Elaine was our choice. We had 6 votes at this point with Tom. But the thing is, Tom and Elaine developed a really, really good a really good bond out there in the 3 days. So we wanted to use somebody as a decoy for Tom, we had 6 votes with Dean, and we were gonna grab Chelseans. We were gonna have 7, and we were gonna have it was gonna be unanimous. I mean, 8 with. We're trying to pull people in at this point, but before we pulled Vince, because Vince is going nuts, he's running around the place and he's just like scrambling, and I guess Elaine actually at one point went out to look for an idol because she was worried. So we tried to pull Tom in. We were talking to Tom, and before Aaron went to speak to Tom, which I should have let him because they had a better relationship, I went to Tom and, because we spoke about a decoy for Tom to vote for, right? So he was like, oh, we think Karishma or Vince was his choices, and me and Karishma are really pretty tight, and I should have just said, yeah, Vince is the guy. I said, yeah, Vince or Karishma, that could work, and he's like, yeah, Karishma would be my choice, and let me just sip this tea.
Absolutely.
I'm still like, I didn't sleep out there 3 days. I got maybe 3 hours in 3 nights, so I feel like a zombie, man.
It's uncomfortable in the shelter?
Yeah. I was the first one who didn't, none of us slept in the shelter. I'll get to that in a little, but it was a disaster. We all slept on the beach every night.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I got bit by crabs. Like, I kept waking up every 10 minutes, like crabs are on my feet and my head. It's real. Like, you don't know how real it is until you're out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, it's one of the reasons why the show resonates with people so much is because it feels real when you're watching it. But, even like the times that I've come out here and like I feel like the grit, like I can't even fathom what you guys go through, let alone someone who's just, listening to this on their couch. Can't even imagine being kept up by crabs all night.
Yeah, crabs, it's wet. Sometimes it rains, like it'll rain a little and then go away, and then we have to go back to the shelter, just like sit in the shelter. That was just disgusting because nobody wanted to work on it. So I told Tom, like, yeah, Karishma will be fine, and then Aaron came over and we spoke to me and Aaron spoke to Tom together, and Aaron persuaded Tom to, he was like, would you have a problem with anybody out here? And he's like, he did say, oh, I would like to, I want to keep the tribe strong. Tom's all about keeping the strength of the tribe, of course, the big man. He's, we can't lose another immunity challenge, this and that. And he's like, would you have a problem with anybody out there? And he kind of, got the idea of where we were coming at, where we were going with that. And he said, if it has to be Elaine, like, I understand. I really don't want it to be. I would like if it was Vince or Karishma, or, particularly Karishma. And,
And why Elaine?
She was very, like, she had a compelling story. She was a bit, everybody loved her in the tribe.
She's a stitch.
She's a stitch, yeah. And Aaron brought a good point up. He said, if we lose another immunity challenge and she's here and there's a tribe swap, and she continues to, to strengthen the relationships that she's made with Beisel and Chelsea and Tom, and we can't just get rid of her. If there's a tribe swap, one of us go to, we go to a tribe without the numbers, and she's there with you, and you're probably gonna leave before she does, because she's just very, like, she's just, like, people love her. Yeah. She's, and he made a good point. He's like, I'd rather go to a tribe with Vince or with a lot of people here. I think I can win, and I don't know.
Somebody who would go ahead of me.
Yeah, but I mean, Aaron's, I don't see Aaron getting voted out before the, until the merge, or right before the merge, because he's just a, really, really nice kid. And so I think his story is slightly bullshit, but it made a lot of sense for me. It made a lot of sense for people in that conversation. We're like, yeah, that does make sense. So and it made a lot of sense for Tom. And Tom was like, yeah. So Elaine was the vote. So we had her. That's who we were coming at. And then she walks up. Elaine walks up, and Aaron's like, she didn't know what to do. She didn't even want to jump in the conversation. It was like 5 of us, and Aaron's like, come on in, Elaine. And we spoke for about, half an hour, and Elaine was pitching her, pitching with her, about her. So, like, what she did at tribal council, she did there. Yeah. It was just like, and she won over the crowd again, and now Vince is the vote. Okay? That's what I thought, Vince. And it was. At that point, I believe, I'll see later, wholeheartedly, that was the vote. Yeah. And then I went off, and this was like another, like a ridiculous, like, sleep deprived, stupid mistake of mine. I like go talk to Karishma about what just happened between me and Tom, just in case I didn't get back to her.
Just to double check, basically.
Just to double check with her. Like I wanted to make sure she didn't even know what was going on either. Like, you know, me, Aaron, and Tom spoke about who's going to speak to her, and I was, you know, I said, you know, I'll go over. Obviously, this like they, you know, they both asked me if I can go talk to her, so I talked to her, and I let her know like this is what happened. This is a conversation that was had. You know, Tom was thinking about, you know, yourself or Vince, but you know, particularly yourself, and we were going to just use you as a decoy vote for one person. Yeah. You know, I like, and I was gonna come over and make sure you're comfortable with that. Like, this is like information. Like, why am I telling her this? The plan is now Vince. Like, who cares? You know, she doesn't have to know. Tom was never gonna tell her like, hey, but I just like gave her information that was ridiculously like, there was no point in this. Like, you know. Yeah. I guess at the time I just wanted to keep her afloat while everything was going on, just to strengthen our relationship and tell her, hey, like I had her back and she was never going home. But it led her to go speak to Tom, and Tom and her had this conversation, and I believe that I seen him in the corner, and I was just sitting there watching. I believe that Tom was like, yeah, Ronnie was on board to vote you, you know, like he said, yeah, Karishma, you know, like, and then I think I lost her trust there. But even though we had another conversation, I said, you know, no, you're never going home. It's just that one. But it just like led me to look untrustworthy, and you know, it was bad, and I made another mistake in a conversation where like Vince was in the conversation, and we were voting for Elaine, and then we were speaking of a decoy vote, and I said something like, well, who is it going to be? But like all suspect. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not making
keep going.
Much sense.
No, you're great. You're perfect.
But just all in all, I made mistake after mistake after mistake, and within like 3 hours, and it was probably like four spots where I just like, as soon as I said it, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
You sensed it immediately,
dude. Immediately, like I'm not like immediately. I'm talking about like
instantly.
It's as if, you know, like when you talk about poker, it's as if you when you do something in a hand, you're like, oh shit, that was a mistake. Or a really good analogy is when like you're bluffing and your opponent picks up a tell on you and you know it. Yeah. Like you just like you did something stupid, you're like, shit, and you're like, oh fuck, how am I gonna fix this? And you're like, sit back, and he's like, and he just sits there and laughs like, I call, like, yeah, I got you, like, you know, like you're bluffing, and you're like, yeah, but you know, like you sense what he just picked up off of you, and I sensed, you know, the players looking like feeling me out. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know? Yeah. So, yeah.
So you felt like you were in trouble at Tribal last night then?
Yeah, I did. Especially when I seen Dean, Tom, because I went on a walk. And that was when everything happened. I went on a walk, and while I was, you know, giving my confessional, about, you know, 150 yards up, I could see Tom, Aaron, Vince, a couple of the girls, you know, Chelsea, and they're all just sitting in the water. There's like 6 of them, and I just felt like shit.
They were talking about you.
I knew they were talking about me. I knew that was a possible choice, but I was like, you know, in terms of like strength-wise, like I just gave my all. I mean, and the immunity challenges, and I just felt like I don't think they can get rid of me at this point, you know?
Yeah, it's an early time to cut you.
It's an early time to cut me. I mean, we don't have them, like, their men compared to ours, and, you know, our women, I feel like, are much stronger than theirs, even though they, you know, they have it was good. They were both really good, you know, packed tribes, but our men comparison, we needed to keep, like, so I just didn't see them getting rid of me right now. And I was like, all right, I have a lot of damage control, like, and even though you're like exhausted and depressed and sad at this point after all those mistakes like you make, and you know, and you come back, you're like, all right. So after the walk, I had like a half an hour or maybe less. And you know, you hear them, okay, you know, come on, we're gonna be in lockdown in like 10 minutes, get dressed, but you can still talk for like 15 minutes, we're in a lockdown. And this is when I see Tom, Dean, and Aaron come back from the well, and they'll probably show it on, it's a spot where like I know the cameras are on me, and I just like kind of like glance my eyes at them walking. And then like Chelsea, she's just, I mean, she has zero. In my opinion, she has 0% chance to win.
Yeah.
She's like she's just, I don't know. She's a major tell box. I mean, I seen her in the shelter as soon as I came over. Like as soon as I came over, Tom and her are just like they're just tell boxes, right? So, because when I came over, they switched the subject in like the worst way ever when I walked over to the shelter to get dressed.
The way that you knew they were talking about you before you showed
it was
up.
so bad. I'm just like, oh shit. And I meant it during tribal council, and I told Elaine, I was like, you never know, the plan. I meant it for Vince and myself. I'm like, things changed. I knew she wasn't going home. I knew it was either me or Vince.
Yeah.
And because of the shit that I said, yeah.
Everybody comes out here to win, but beyond that, everyone comes out here for their own personal journey. You learned the stories of 9 other people, assuming that they were honest, but you learned a lot about these other people while you were there on that beach. You've got your own reasons for being out here. Can you still get any of that? Having been in the game for 3 days, coming out, and you're going to be here in Fiji, you're going to be away from your world.
Yeah, I think so. You have nothing else to do but think, read, reflect about life in the past 36 years, whatever I can remember of that, and the mistakes you made in relationships with people, mistakes you made, approaching different things and different aspects, and just your path and where you want to go from here. And it's all about learning from your mistakes and doing better. And for me, it's like purpose, and meaning, and figuring out, what that is for me. Just until about a couple of years ago, I started reading. I never read as a child. I didn't have much education. So, just starting to pick up some books and getting other people's stories. And I probably read about 10, 11 books now, and 12. That's a lot for me in the last 2 years of how busy I am. And in my childhood, I probably read 2 books. So I'm gonna start reading a lot more. I have nothing to do besides read and think and write. I was never a big writer. I never wrote anything. And just to start journaling, and they caught me. They get you really vulnerable out there when you're like, exhausted and depressed, and they push these buttons.
Yeah.
In confessionals. He's like, oh, in one of my confessionals, he spoke to me about. So Aaron, you guys seem like you guys are hitting it off. Like, is that somebody who you look up to, or someone who tell me about your guys' relationship? And I was like, yeah, Aaron's me and him are from the same area. He's from Warwick, I'm from Brockton, but we had 2 different paths. He seems like a guy who his family had it together, and he's a married man with a child, the boy, and my life went the opposite. I come from a really dysfunctional home, and my parents got divorced really early, and I didn't have much guidance or much, direction really as a child, and I just did what I knew how to do, what I seen, which was gambling and running off and hustling, and it's something that I really want for my life is I want some stability and some structure soon, and I would like to, have a family, and is that what do you see yourself having children? Do you want to have a child one day and a family? You want to do better with your life. You want to, and this is you're sitting there and you start to get all your chest starts to tingly, and you get really emotional, and then you start to cry. It's he's like, do you want a family? Do you think it's too late for you to I'm just, and he just they know what they're doing. They know how to get to you. And they know how to get a story out of you. And I started to bawl. And what I was talking about was playing poker. When you play cards and you're out there living that fast life, it's changed. Don't get me wrong, poker's been great, in terms of I almost amassed at one point, close to $1 million, cash, $600,000-700,000 was my high point. And that money's not all gone, but that my high point was 2010. I was feeling great. Poker was going well. I just came off winning 300,000 in 2010 in cash games. I was crushing, traveling the world. But when you play cards, 10 hours goes by within it feels like 2 hours. It's so fast. Your life goes by it's when you're playing basketball. An hour feels 5.
Yeah.
Because you just you know, it's like when you're like if you ever got in a fight as a child.
Yeah.
Like a 40-second fight feels like
a year.
A year. When you're in Survivor, you know, so I compared Survivor and poker. I'm like a Survivor, like a day felt like
a month.
A month. You know, the 3 days out there felt like, you know, like a month. You know, the 3 days out there felt like a long, long time.
You like time traveled.
Yeah, and when you're playing cards, your life kind of, you know, so when you're waking up like early in the morning and you're getting, you know, and you're staying up all day till the night, it's just like you feel like you're getting more out of life. And in the poker world, for me, my schedule is like I wake up at like 1 o'clock and, you know, played all 3 hours of the night, and you just like go to bed and you're kind of living unhealthy and you're traveling everywhere and you're just like getting up at different times. And, you know, the last 16 years have been great, have been fun, but it's the last 2 years is where I'm kind of shifted and like, this is not the life I want to live anymore. So when I came out here, I was hoping that like, you know, I had a lot of thinking and obviously playing the great game of Survivor. Of
course.
Like I wanted to win, but I was prepared in terms of like, I knew how to approach the game. I knew what I wanted to do, but I just didn't execute. Yeah, didn't execute any. Like I made everything I wanted to do. I did the opposite in terms of conversations. Like conversations I had with people, the vibe that I gave off. You know, I let like, you know, I just, yeah.
You're gonna be okay out here.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It just sucks being the first one off.
I know.
It's depressing. Like if the second one off feels like way better.
Yeah.
It sucks, but at least there's somebody under you.
Yeah, but you get a podcast, man, right?
Well,
like,
Josh Wigler,
I'm not talking to the second one off.
Yeah.
You know?
How old are you?
34.
Oh, you're not talking to the second one off?
No, I'll eventually, but you know, but you get the star treatment, my friend.
Yeah. I guess the first one off is like, people may remember, you know, and then like the last 7, you know, nobody remembers like kind of. That's not true.
You'll be remembered.
Yeah, I'm a part of Survivor history now, and it's really cool. But it's just like, who wants a viewing party for one episode? You know, who wants to like, you know, who wants, you know, then the poker world's like you post on your Twitter, you post on social media, like, you know, that's what we basically use in poker, you know, and nobody really, you know, poker players don't have, like, they have Facebooks and Instagram, but it's like all Twitter, right? So who wants to post like, oh, watch me on Survivor, and like I know I'm gonna come off as a guy, they're gonna show all, because like in the confessions I talked about I made mistakes and I recognized them right away with like a half an hour leading up to getting going, you know, I talked about that. So I know they're gonna like show each clip, you know, me talking like four different spots and the mistakes that I made, because I explained them in much better detail than I did to you, because I was so fresh off of them.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't just wake up like I did now. You'd think I'd be more fresh after getting like 7 hours of sleep finally.
Did you sleep through the night?
Yeah, I woke up once, and I was like, I thought I was still there. And I was like, oh, I'm in a comfortable bed.
There's a silver lining, right?
Yeah.
Ronnie Barda's the first one out of Survivor Island of the Idols, but he won't be the only one exploring the silver linings of Ponderosa for long. 18 others will fall short of their quest for the sole Survivor title, with only one player walking away with the $1 million prize. Tune into thr.com/survivor all season long for my coverage of Island of the Idols and the highs and lows along the way. For now, that's going to do it for us on Series Regular. Subscribe to Series Regular on your podcast app of choice. And make sure to email your questions, comments, and feedback to seriesregular@thr.com. You can also send them to me on Twitter @RoundHoward. Until next time, take care.